Anastasia, Mr. Nice Guy on social media, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm happy to have you here. What's your first thought when I say Red Soul? Well, I can't hear you, but I'm pretty sure it's Christian Louboutin. Does it mean that he actually invented it and through the history before him no one actually thought about making the sole of the shoe some kind of different color? Some contrasting one, like, I don't know, red? Of course not. So today we will talk about the red sole before Louboutin, about how Monsieur Christian reinvented it, and about the infamous scandal about the red sole. With that said, we are moving to our first chapter, which is red sole before Christian Louboutin. One of the main reasons being its uniqueness, as well as the high price. Red dye was extremely difficult to make up until the invention of the synthetic red dye in the 19th century. Like ancient Phoenicians made it out of the insects called kermes, kind of a black fly. Ancient Egyptians of orange-red sunflowers. Etruscans out of a rare sea snails. But the thing is that you need a lot of snails, insects or flowers to make a decent amount of dye. And because all of them were pretty rare, it was pretty expensive. So during the time of the Roman monarchy, which is the earliest time period of the Roman history, only the emperor was allowed to wear red sandals. Not that ordinary people could have afforded them anyway. Then during the time of Roman Republic, senators as well as the members of patrician class were granted to wear red shoes as well. And then, when Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity as one of the state religion, bishops got this right too. Well, this is basically how we end up with the red papal shoes, which Catholic papas wear up to this day. However, the church's version is that red shoes emerged because they symbolize the Christ's bloody martyrdom, but I guess we'll never know for sure. The truth always lies somewhere in between, right? Anyway, we'll skip a decent amount of fashion history of a red shoe because that's not the point of today's video, and we will move to the 17th century France, where we meet one of the biggest fashionistas in the history, which is Louis XIV. Well, he's generally considered to be such, however, the actual innovator was his younger brother Philip. Well, since his childhood he went it wearing a dress, or his mother used to dress him like this, we will never know, I guess. But the point is, he grew up being very free in the way he thought, acted and dressed as well, which made him an actual and real fashion innovator. Well, brothers had rather tense relationships, so when Louis adopted something, anything, Philip did first. The court kind of preferred to stay silent about it and not to speak out loud about the origins of this trend. Well, Louis made a lot of fashion changes during his 72 years of being a monarch. I mean, he had his time. One of them being a shoe innovation. Before the Louis, the main shoe choice was huge boots with the same curve. I mean, there was no such thing as distinguishing left and right footwear. But Louis made a new shoe trend inspired by, surprise, surprise, Persian cavalry. Shahabad I of Persia, or Shahabad the Great, was eager to build stronger bonds with Europe. So in 1599 he sends a group of diplomats to the France. A part of male Persian costume at the time was a heeled shoe. Well, it wasn't ridiculously high, maybe 3 to 5 centimeters, and it was very helpful for the cavalry in the battle, while they had to balance on the horse, with their arms being busy with the bow and arrows. Louis was fascinated by the idea. Not for the practical reasons though, he was approximately 163 centimeters high and he tried to look taller by all means possible. Thus, by taking a Persian heel which he elongated up to 8 to 10 centimeters and adding yet another innovation of his younger brother Philip, who, like Christian Louboutin many years after him, colored the heels of his shoe red showed up in the court wearing them, and Louis liked the idea. A new shoe trend was born. All the male court members were wearing these red-heeled shoes. It was reserved only for the court, and ordinary people wasn't allowed to wear heels, like, of course, a sumptuary law. And, well, not that they could anyway, because it was extremely difficult to walk in there anywhere but at the marble floors of Versailles. And then with the French Revolution, when Louis XVI was beheaded, everything that was associated with the royal dressing and royal fashion just went out of the window. Red heels being in the front lines of this, not only because royals used to wear them, but because ordinary people weren't allowed to. They were a symbol of this abuse of the privilege. Napoleon Bonaparte even declared neither a red hat nor a red heel, thus separating himself from both revolutionaries who used to wear red hats. And by the way, tell me in the comments whether you would like to see a video about the history of a red hat. It's a fascinating one. And from the nobles of the past as well. And with that, we can move to the reinvention of the red sole by Monsieur Christian Louboutin. Somewhere in 1992, 1993, Louboutin was working on a pair of shoes based on the Andy Warhol's painting The Flowers. And when he got a sample of this pair of shoes, the black sole just didn't make sense for him. At the very same time, one of the employees in his office happened to paint her nails with a red nail polish. And I actually wonder what nail polish it was, because they could have made lots of money out of advertising the story. Louboutin took a polish from her and painted the soles of this sample red. And just like that, a modern red sole was born. By 2008, they were so popular that even Carrie Bradshaw switched her Manolos for Louboutins in the Sex and the City movie. Dun dun dun! The history of the events is bringing us to the third part of today's video, which is an infamous scandal between Christian Louboutin and Yves Saint Laurent. Were the red sole of the shoe in the very DNA of the brand? Yes, of course they were. But is it actually true that none other fashion houses have ever adopted whatever it is lying in the DNAs of each other? Like, I don't think so. I mean, Paco Rabanne, for instance. Like, chain dresses were at the very core of his house and at the very DNA of his brand. However, when the 80s came, Gianni Versace took the idea of a chain dress or metal dress and adapted it in a different way. It was still a chain dress, but slightly different. Well, as I said, by 2008, Louboutin's red sole shoes were extremely popular and they were the major income of the brand. Some sources even mentioned that after 1992-1993, none of his non-red shoe designs were ever popular and successful. For the sake of capturing this success or for some other reasons, but Louboutin applied to register the red sole on his shoe. And in 2008, he was granted with a federal registration of a red sole trademark. 3 years later, in 2011, YSL showcased a collection featuring a red sole shoe. However, as in the case of a chain dress, it wasn't exactly like copying. The concept of the shoe was them being bold and fully monochrome. And of course there were other colors, like there were purple shoes with purple sole and red shoes with red sole, of course. In April 2011, before the collection was launched, Christian Louboutin filed lawsuit against YSL, accusing it of trademark infringement and counterfeiting, false designation of origin, unfair competition, and trademark dilution in connection with Louboutin's federal registration of his red sole trademark. In response, YSL filed a counterclaim with the purpose to cancel Louboutin's red sole trademark because it lacked distinctiveness and was merely functional, which made it ineligible for trademark protection. This legal battle continued for more than a year, 8 months to be particular, until in 2012 YSL dismissed the counterclaim. Like, both sides kind of came up being winners in this situation. First and foremost, they had an enormous public attention for the scandal. And as for the court, it ruled that Christian Louboutin has a right to Red Soul trademark protection, as of it being his know-how since 1992. However, other companies may produce shoes with red soles until the whole shoe is red, like the ones showcased by YSL in the first place. Whew, that's it for the scandalous life of a red sole shoe for today. I hope you have learned something new. I hope it was interesting and informative for you. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel, as well as like and comment down below whether you like it or not. If you want to see more content made by me, please consider subscribing to my other social medias. I post on Instagram and TikTok daily. I also have a Telegram channel. And other than that, I'll see you next Wednesday, and nice style, everybody!